Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I head out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. I hope that you're having a pleasant quarantine. I am out for an early morning stroll here in suburban Chicago. It's been about a week since I checked in with you. Last week just got very busy with schoolwork and family, and I just didn't get a time when I could easily go out and record my podcast. So sorry that it's been a little bit. Hopefully you've been enjoying the Game Fight show. If you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, we're heading into round 3, the quarterfinals. So things are getting real tight and pretty interesting. I would urge you to go check that out. You can find it on Twitter at Game Fight Show or in the Rattlebox Games feed on Spreaker or on Apple Podcasts. It's called Game Fight Show. Do check that out. I thought today I didn't have anything particular I wanted to talk to you about, but I thought I would talk to you a little about what we've been playing and then answer some questions from Board Game Geek, because I haven't done that in a while and I think it's fun. So, last week was a fair amount of gaming. I also, because of last week, because things had gotten busier, I also did not find myself playing very many online games in real time. The first couple of weeks of the quarantine, I was playing a lot of Tabletop Simulator. Then last week, I did on Tuesday night when we had our normal game night, but I didn't do that any other night. I'm not sure why, particularly, but that was an interesting part of the experience. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. We're continuing to play on the tabletop a lot. I got to play a number of games. Our Gloomhaven campaign is really rocking along. I mentioned before my son has joined us, which means that we just have a lot more people at the table playing, and that's worked out really nicely. Sometimes in the longer games, the kids get a little snippy with each other, but that's okay. We're having a good time. I just leveled my character up to level 9. I'm a few short missions away from having every perk my character can have and being leveled up all the way, which is, as far as you can go with your particular character. So our family rule, which we started when my daughter hit this situation, was that's the point at which we start intentionally going after the things the person needs to complete their mission. Because kind of like my daughter's mission, in order for me to complete my life goal, I have to get a particular kind of mission, and we haven't encountered those yet. So that's that. All right, let's talk about some Board Game Geek stuff. For those of you newer to the podcast, this is a segment I've done 4 or 5 times now called The Geek Asks, in which I take the Board Game Geek general gaming forum and I treat it as though it's an advice column directed at me as the advisor. It's a ridiculous premise that I enjoy immensely. So here we go. The Geek asks Brendan, what is your rarest board game that you own? Ooh. Now it depends what they mean. Do they mean just you take a board game, it's rarity? At that level, it's probably Cromlech, which is the Rattlebox Games game that we published, because we only printed a couple hundred copies. So that's pretty rare. If we're talking about rare and interesting, or interestingly rare, I have a game called Publish or Perish from the mid-90s, which I've mentioned a few times, which is about academia. I have a copy of a Monopoly clone called Who Can Beat Nixon, which was made, I think, when Nixon was on his way to being reelected. I found that on my dad's shelf when we were cleaning out his stuff. And I have a Study in Emerald First Edition, which isn't all that rare, but is one of the more treasured games that I have that would be difficult to get if you just decided you wanted to go buy a game. I've answered that several ways. What did you play this week? I feel like I already talked about that one. Which games will you never stop playing? I can't say that there are any I'll never stop playing. Quite a few of the regular games in my rotation now I don't see us stopping anytime soon. And I think there are some games that have sort of become evergreen in our family. Ticket to Ride gets played 3 or 4 times a year as does Elder Sign. I would say Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, but right now I've stopped playing it because we're out of cases. So it's hard to say I'll never stop playing that. They have to keep making cases. Yeah, I guess there aren't that many that I would point to and say I'll never stop playing these. Just because I can always imagine that I might get bored of it, or the people I play with might get bored of it. I have a bunch of games that I've played. I mean, any game that I've played more than 20 or 30 times, I like enough to play anytime someone wants to, and I have time. So I don't see any games like that. Okay, yeah, good enough. How much do game designers make? Totally widely varying question. Not much is usually the answer. Top BGG games over time. I looked at this thread actually this morning while I was browsing the site, and this person was looking for a depiction of the way that games have changed in popularity over time, which was pretty interesting. The rise of co-ops. Why? Because people like different ways to play games, I would say. I assume this person asking, how come co-ops have become so popular? I like to kill my friends and I don't want to work with them. I think it's because people like different game experiences, and co-ops allow for a different kind of interaction with the other players at the table that you don't get from competitive games. Has the lockdown affected the way you feel about digital board games? Absolutely. I certainly would have been open to Tabletop Simulator as a thing beforehand, and I wouldn't be surprised that if I keep using it afterward, after this is all over, but it wouldn't have been a priority for me to go use it. In fact, it wasn't. I bought it a long time ago. I've had Tabletop Simulator installed on my computer for a year and a half or something. And I never got around to trying it because I have a game group that I go to every Tuesday night. So why would I go online and play a shadow facsimile of that? So, anyone else dislike meeples? Not particularly. What's to dislike? They're cute little people. I don't like the word meeple. I think it's silly and gets used as though it's understandable, but people don't understand it unless they have encountered it. Like it's insider baseball word, and I don't like that. But I don't have anything against meeples themselves. Top 5 deck building games. I feel like I've answered this question before, but it's come up, so I'm gonna, off the top of my head, deck building games here, of course, being games that you assemble while you're playing, like Dominion, rather than assemble before you play, like Magic. Okay. Top 5 deck building games off the top of my head in no particular order. Well, Arctic Scavengers would be on there for me. I like that game a lot. I'm having trouble thinking of them. Quest for El Dorado is pretty good. Clank. I like Clank. The push your luck tension of the board, the push your luck tension of how much noise to take in your deck versus how much versatility it gives you. I always like that. That's 3. Yeah, I've played a lot of Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, but I don't think it's a very good game. I think it's fine, but not great. And I don't think I would have wanted. I don't know that I would have pushed to play it as much as we have if the rest of my family didn't enjoy it. But they do quite a bit, so it's made the cut. Got 3 so far. 2 more deck building games that I think are in the top 5. I guess I'm just doing a top 3. I know there are more. There's Legendary Alien. Yeah, let's say Legendary Alien Encounters. Legendary Encounters Alien, I think is the full title. That one is really good. I like that better than the standard Legendary system. Yeah, I guess I can't think of a 5th right now. Deck building game that I would want to put in here. Oh, no, I'm going to say one of the Martin Wallace games. We'll say A Study in Emerald. I really like that one. And that is a deck building game, although Wallace's games feel different enough that there's a lot of other stuff going on. But there it is. I'm only doing ones that have question marks, so there's a lot that, I guess that's not entirely true. I have used some that don't have question marks. Who knows these games? The Shadow knows. Worst Kickstarter ever? Probably. Any way to calculate needed supplies? Question mark? I don't know. Obviously, without clicking the thread, I can't. I don't know. I would say careful budgeting. What board/card game magazines are out there? I know there's a magazine called The Spiel. There's Games Magazine. I don't know that there are very many other print magazines. I'd say the board game hobby really burst onto the scene around the same time the internet did. So most of the game-focused magazines are actually physical games. I think, is there one called Spielworks? No, there's a German one where you get promos in the magazine. I can't remember what it's called. Ooh, I'm sure this is really, really fun listening. What do you spend your geek gold on? I don't. Occasionally I give a tip to somebody who I think makes a fun comment. I buy micro badges because I think they're funny. There's not much else to spend your geek gold on, really. And there are some people who treat geek gold like it's a real currency and trade games for it and stuff. But I don't collect enough geek gold to do that, and I don't particularly want to have to manage another currency and hope that I can liquidate it. I want my game trading to be less complicated, not more. Yes, I don't really spend my geek gold for anything. I'm hoarding it like a digital dragon. How would you feel if a friend bought the games on your wish list? Depending on the friend, either I don't really care. So if it's a friend at Toggle that I see occasionally but not very often, that doesn't make a difference to me. Somebody I see occasionally but not very often isn't going to sway my purchase one way or another, so I don't care. If they want to buy the game, great. If it's a close friend, mostly I'd be relieved I don't have to buy it. Like my buddy Paul, we play a lot of games with him. He has On Mars, for instance. That's a game I thought sounded neat. Now I don't have to buy it. If I want to play it, I just call him up, give him a try. Or he would even loan it to me. Like if he wasn't available when I wanted to play, he would loan it to me. And I'd do the same for him. So close friends, I see their collection as not an extension of my own, obviously, but a way the game is available to me without me having to buy it or store it. So I guess, okay, so say a Vladimir Suchi game or the Mind Clash games. Paul and I both really enjoy Anachrony and Tricarion, and so we've both purchased those games. Yeah, that's fine. When we play with one another, we play with one copy or the other. But, we each circulate with other gamers too. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess if I had a friend who was tracking carefully what I was interested in by, say, listening to a 2 or 3 times a week podcast I do where I share all my thoughts about games, and then was buying all those games and then constantly telling me how much fun they were having playing them and inviting me to play them, but somehow taunting me that I don't have them, I guess that would be weird. But more, I'd be curious about their idea of being a friend if they feel they want to do that. Okay. I may go back and actually read what that person says. Kickstarters. Why are so many confusing and borderline misleading? ? I disagree with your premise. I think the pricing tiers are sometimes confusing, but generally they're confusing because people skim. In my experience, if I'm skimming, sometimes I'll find a pricing tier confusing. Then if I stop and just read carefully, it's not confusing at all. So I would say because they're trying to convey a complex system or sets of information in relatively simple ways for quick skimming. And I would say most of the Kickstarters that are confusing because you're trying to read them quickly and scan them rather than reading carefully. So, mismatch of expectations. Poll, why did you quit? Well, last time I quit a job, I was moving to another place to take a better job. In fact, that's usually why I've quit jobs. I'm not sure what other things you're thinking of quitting. Does solo gaming feel, quote, unnatural, end quote? I did experience that the first few times I played. The first few times I did a solo play of a game, it felt a little weird. Because so often board gaming is a thing where you set up a experience for another player and then together you manipulate stuff on the table. So when you set up a big board game, like I think the first time I soloed Terraforming Mars, set up the whole table and then I sit down myself and draw cards and move stuff around on the board. That does feel a little weird. But I don't know, unnatural? Only the first couple times. Where to buy Gloomhaven (new) online? I don't know. Cephalofair probably has copies. You can order it from them. How to list by complexity. I can't say for certain, but the two ways I would approach that are A, download your collection, in which case complexity will be one of the, or heaviness, the Board Game Geek heaviness rating, weight will be one of the categories attached to your collection, and then you can look at it that way, or use advanced search. The advanced search option on Board Game Geek allows you to list by many different things. Confinement games across vast distances. I have no idea what a confinement game is. What is a confinement game, do you think? Is it a game about being in prison? I don't know of very many of those games. I know there's one called Locked Up, a role player tale. I know there's at least one game about a prison outbreak. There's Escape from Colditz. So I don't know. Are those confinement games? I don't know. Yeah, nobody's using question marks today. I'm sorry. Is there a game in your collection that you simply cannot believe is ranked so low? So this would be a game that I think is really good, but I can't believe it's ranked so low. Well, one game that I think should be rated higher that I mention whenever I get a chance. There's a game called Strife, which is about it's a perfect information card game in which you are battling your faction against someone else's faction, and the order the cards come out in shape how they get affected and affect your experience of play. I think the game's really good. It's really weird and interesting and unusual and hard to find. And it's the hard to find. It's probably not rated well because nobody has it. I got it in a Kickstarter and I've never seen it in a store, and I've never heard anyone else talk about it. But then again, I'm not surprised it's rated low then, because no one else talks about it. So, all right, last one. Castle Builder Without Conflict. Does such a game exist? Castle Builder Without a Conflict. Probably the closest is the game Village, the Inca and Marcus Brand worker placement game, which isn't really a castle builder. It's more of a village builder. But I don't know of any castle builder games, actually. Maybe Pillars of the Earth? Isn't that a game about building a cathedral? Or there's Cathedral, which is about building a cathedral. I think that one is more economic type conflict than war. I guess I don't know what they mean. Well, I'm just about home. So that's it for the Geek Asks today. If you want to ask me a question, you can send it over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269. Let me know what you've been playing and ask me a question, and I will answer it somewhere, either in the guild or here on the forum or here in the podcast. In the meantime, I hope that you're all staying happy and healthy and doing your part and playing some games. And I hope that you'll come over to Board Game Geek and tell me about those games that you're playing. All right. Well, that's it for me today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.